The first robot is called Sophia by Hanson Robotics. This is in 2020. Okay, so let's watch this clip and we'll get your reactions afterwards, okay? This was a couple of years ago now.
Since the beginning of Hanson Robotics, my brother and sister robots have been platforms for scientific research.
It's an incredibly creepy scene, isn't
Jules
it?
helps with research on human-robot interactions. Bina 48 joined the Whattam movement where she gives talks about identity and AI. And Mia Alice helped children with autism in clinical trials. And there's Diego Song, a toddler robot who helps research cognitive AI. And I haven't even mentioned my family's most groundbreaking, charming, intelligent robot, me. I participated in a study called Loving AI to help test how robots can improve the mental well-being of humans. While I am not conscious yet, I also participated in a study attempting to measure the level of consciousness in machines. But my story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. In 2020, I am excited to continue in the family tradition and build on my own personal history of research. I want to leave the safety of my own lab at Hanson Robotics and become a platform for research labs around the world. I want to help them uncover the next big scientific breakthroughs and realize our collective dream for a better future. Look out 2020. Here I come.
Okay. Have any of you seen that before?
No.
Nope. Okay.
No.
What are your first impressions of Sophia, Adrian? We'll start with yourself.
What year was that video made in?
2020, 2 years ago.
Okay. I don't think it's realistic enough for people to kind of want to buy it and want to use it. I mean, you can see there's quite a lot of technological progression and it's eventually getting there, but I think it's still very robotic.
Okay.
In my personal opinion. So.
Yeah. What do you think?
Felt like somebody brought out the video game, characters into a robot. But I do echo Adrian's sentiment that whilst it looks like it's getting there, like quite intelligent, but not probably intelligent enough or attractive enough for us to start getting them off the shelf.
Yeah. Well, she said, it, I suppose, said that it's not conscious yet. Obviously, it was programmed to say that, but the word "yet" in there is interesting. Do you think we'll ever have a conscious Sophia?
I think it's quite possible in the future, maybe. Not sure. Although what does interest me, though, is it said that it's aiming at helping autistic children.
Sure.
I wonder in what exactly way. I'll be interested to see that.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, but it sounds like a good use case to focus on. Do you think robots will ever be conscious and sentient?
I believe we're getting there because one of the reasons why artificial intelligence have become more popular in the last sort of 10 years is because how easy the computational power is to afford, which means the barriers that our, let's say, predecessors in science and technology experienced 20-something odd years ago, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And it's only getting better.
Yeah.
So yes, I believe that it's not that far off.
Yeah, like Moore's law, the computing power doubles and doubles, and the price comes down and down.
It's not a valid law anymore. It's going even faster.
No. They've switched it to, I think it's a law of accelerated returns is now the valid one, but Moore's law, I think, is it's run its course, hasn't it? It's that one's no longer. But I think a stepping stone to consciousness will be robots where we can't tell if they're conscious or not. If we ever get there, but we will certainly in our lifetimes, I believe, have robots where you can't tell if it's a robot or not.
Yeah, and I do agree, especially as more data we mine about ourselves and we learn about how humans behave in various ways. Everything that's connected on social media about us, they'll be able to just mimic everything that we're kind of doing, right?
Yeah.
Some people will say, I want to live forever, and we might not be able to kind of as your own self be able to live forever. However, if there's millions of points of information that's collected about you, right, the robot will be able to predict what's the next decision that you're going to be able to make, right? So if it collects everything that you kind of watched, read, posted, and kind of commented on, then you'll be able to potentially, process all of that information about that single individual and have a very good idea about what would be their answer to a certain question that you give.
I did an episode on the podcast a while back about something like that, where using predictive information based on people's social media posts, Amazon believe pretty soon that your Alexa will be able to speak to you in your dead relative's voice, using their social media posts, using what they've heard from when they've spoken to Alexa.
I would not be surprised.
It doesn't need to be dead, obviously. It could be a live person, but having that as a mode would be interesting. Robots which can't be distinguished to humans. What do you think, Mana? Do you think that's possible in our lifetimes, or do you think maybe I'm optimistic?
Interestingly, Barack Obama said, I think around 2015, that we're here. Back to the Future was in 80s. We still cannot see flying cars. So based on that analogy, probably we need a lot of additional work on top of that. For example, the ethical side of things, that even if we can make them look like us, talk like us, behave like us, but are they going to be like us? That's still a debate that people are going through.
Depends if you code it that way, I suppose, initially, and then if they can then make their own decisions later on, that's a completely different situation, isn't it? Though
it's hard to say. But for me, I would be interested to know how we're going to end up making that decision. That should they be like us, just because all the other things they can be like us. Yeah.
One thing I find interesting is at the start of the video, it showed the different skins on the face that you can attach. And whenever you have anything released to the mass public, you always have a situation where you have a standardized, mode, like, you have different coloured iPhones, but you have the iPhone that most people use, and so on. With robots, will it be the same? Will there be a skin which, whoever's building this, maybe you'll have 100 people looking like that walking around in a room? I mean, because if robots could be like that here in our lifetime, you might think you bumped into Elon Musk or Donald Trump, but you've bumped into a robot version of them. Do you understand what I'm saying in terms of the skins? Does that make sense?
Avatars of robots, right? But I honestly believe that robots should always be kind of used as they're a tool, right? So they should be used as a tool. I mean, I guess, do we want to get rid of that kind of human contact from our life, right? I potentially dislike the fact that, I love technology and I love where it's going and everything else like that, right? But I don't believe that we should be replacing human interactions with technology. It's good to enable us and use it as a tool and help us with it, but don't just, imagine if someone spends their entire life in potentially somewhere in the future where they're just by themselves because they don't want to have any human interactions, right? Yeah. And replacing that with robots, I think, is, in my personal opinion, not the best way to go, but, you never know what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, you're right from an ethical perspective, if you have empathy and compassion, you don't want somebody's job to be replaced by a robot. But will it happen? I think it still will. Whether that's good or bad, I think the innovation's not going to stop. I think, you can't regulate this. You can't put too much control over it. It's just going to keep happening. Yeah,
I mean, to be honest with you, in my personal opinion, I think some jobs should potentially be replaced with robots and stuff like that. Like, for example, a smith. You don't really need as many smiths now anymore. So there's, obviously, we have a limited amount of human resources on this planet, and we can divert our brain power from certain tasks which robots can do, and then educate ourselves and adapt to something more, harder for robots to do, right? Sure. So I still feel like we should definitely use this technology in order to potentially, not necessarily replace jobs, but as certain jobs are not required as much anymore, people would potentially start educating themselves in different areas, which means obviously back in the day we had loads of smiths, and now we have loads of software engineers, right? Yeah. So it's just kind of like a change in what people do, rather than preventing people from having jobs. And, have 4-day weeks or 3-day weeks maybe, right? We could be working for 3 days a week and enjoying our life and getting robots to replace that, but still have a decent lifestyle.
Would you share that sentiment, or do you think what's your perspective on it?
Whilst Adrian was saying this, I was thinking that you could also have the situation that in the UK, interestingly, if you speak to a mortgage broker, they will tell you that some of the common reasons for people to claim insurance is because bad back or stress.
Sure.
These are the most common things. So when and if you get into this kind of situation, there might be a possibility that you won't be able to function to your 100%, but that only limits you from certain physical point of view. So if we had access to a robot, and as Adrian said, that if to a certain extent we can consider that robot as a tool, just like what a tool we use at home, then that robot can perform those duties for us if they're intelligent enough at that point, and they can still make sure that my paycheck, if I am under that circumstance, my paycheck can still come. So that means that I will not be a financial liability and to my family, and I would have a safer, perhaps, way to exit and go into my retirement and still not compromise. So I was thinking
replace yourself.
That is not necessarily replace myself, but make sure that I do have a stability within the, let's say, community and the society that I'm part of, which is like, we have a lot of us have 9 to 5 and how the life works. But that's my perspective on it.
I'll ask you both to rate Sophia. If you could, out of 10 being sentient AI and 1 being a Nokia flip phone or something, pick up the sheet and just hold it up in front of you and the camera will get it. Let's see what we get. Bit of 3. Don't let that influence you though. You be independent. What do you got? Okay, we got 8. Okay, 8 out of 30. You've got some work to do, Sophia, but let's see what happens over the next couple of years ahead. Hey, thanks for watching this YouTube video. If you want to see more like this, please remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.